and our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
Mom with the new flesh.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to the It Slays podcast. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
And I'm your poisonous flower, Mike.
I'm Colton.
And it's Jill.
And we are back, and we're in another themed month, the month of Mike Hates Themes, Keep Themes Away, July. That's the theme, I think. Me and Colton are just sad boys this month.
Oh, we're just all getting
sad.
Ready.
We're all getting ready for Joggist. Just Shark Attack movies.
Just Jawbreaker. Only Jawbreaker. Me and Jill are just going to show up to every episode and talk about Jawbreaker.
I'm down.
Just Shark Attack movies, and they can only be Tubi originals.
Okay, now I'm out. Just too far, Rowan, too far.
Sharkula will strike back, I guarantee you.
Please no.
This is where I need to insert that sweet song. The theme song's like Sharkula. It's like rockabilly and just a banger.
Probably better than most of the songs in Rocky Horror, honestly. So
are you get the fuck out? It is still Pride Month. I will not tolerate this bullshit.
Did you watch it? Is the real question.
No, I didn't watch it. I'm sorry. No. But guess what? It's not sacrilegious in like another 5 hours because it's no longer Pride Month then. So just right now, it sucks. But when this episode comes out, you can't criticize me too hard.
We have to wait till next
we
Pride.
can criticize you doubly as hard because it may no longer be Pride Month, then it's Wrath Month, which means all straight people have to suffer the wrath.
Oh, God.
Revenge.
It is. Pride is celebrating. Wrath is payback.
What a great way to start it.
What a
with this
great
movie.
way to start.
Right? Yeah. No, this is a great Wrath Month pick.
Well, let's get into it. We know what we're going to talk about first. What we've been consuming. What have we been watching? What have we been listening to? What we've been reading? All that good stuff. Jill, we're going to start with you.
I hate it when you start with me first. I get so nervous.
What smut did Jill read this month?
Okay. So you remember that writer I was talking about, S.T. Gibson, the Dracula Brides
yes, I remember.
retelling and the Carmilla retelling. I read their most recent book called Evocation, which is kind of a double entendre in the title because it's like a mixture of occult and possession with also breaking free of trauma and vicious cycles. But anyways, it's about this couple, and the husband in the couple is the ex to this guy who has a haunted mansion, and they're all kind of like occultist people in the secret society, and I don't know, it becomes like a love triangle between the husband, the wife, and then the ex-boyfriend, but also they're trying to save the single guy from the possession that he's going through. So there's a little bit of horror in there. I was really expecting a threesome to occur, which did not happen. So I gave it 4.5 stars for that. But again, S.T. Gibson.
Dinged half a star for lack of threesome.
If you're gonna... And then, I'm not sure if the relationship between the girl and the guy who's probably gay is like a maternal friendship thing, and he's just having sex with her husband. But I really wanted it to just be like an all-out kind of threesome.
MMF,
sort of deal. Yeah, and it was not. So, yeah.
A true love triangle, because again, as everybody knows, if it's just two guys after a girl, that's not a triangle.
Yeah, it's got
to be full triangle of attraction.
Agree. And so I guess I got the other end of that. But we'll see when the rest of her books come out. I just love her writing. Apart from that, for reading, I'm almost finished Howl's Moving Castle, which I think I mentioned I started reading. And it's really beautiful. Really beautiful writing. It's less of a children's story than I thought it was, and it also turned out to be kind of science fiction. And I'm seeing a lot of differences from the movie and the book. And the book is amazing, very well fleshed out, but it also made me really respect the movie even more, because with all the stuff that they took out of the movie and managed to like maintain a perfect movie, it's incredible. So book and movie, both amazing. I'm like 80% through the book and it's really good. I fucking love it. So that's it for reading. For movies, I watched or rewatched Train to Busan again. We covered it like a year ago on the podcast, but I did it for Straight Jacket Talk, so that's out now. So if you want to check that out, go ahead. I went to the drive-in last weekend and saw A Nightmare on Elm Street, which was fucking awesome.
It rips in drive-in.
So jealous.
I saw that
so jealous.
a couple years ago in the drive-in.
It was like one of the best moments of my life, and there was like thunder and lightning the whole night, a little bit of light rain, but it was awesome because we're just like in the back of the car with like blankets and pillows and like fairy lights and snacks, and it was so magical and really cool to see other people watch it at the same time as you know, but you're still in your own little personal space. Just want to say I love that bathtub scene. And it was really cool seeing it on a screen like that outside with lightning flashing in the background. So iconic. And then the only other thing that I watched was Fear Street 1994. I actually got my Netflix back just to watch the Fear Street movies.
Aww.
And they announced new ones now, too, I saw.
Right. Yeah, I started watching the second one, but I wasn't fully paying attention, so I'm going to go back and rewatch it. But I like what I've seen so far.
I love the second one.
The second one's the period piece one, right? Like where they go
No,
back.
that's the third one. The second one is the 70s. Like,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Camp
I think
slasher,
I weirdly like the period piece one.
Okay.
I didn't think I was going to like that very much at all in like the first 15 minutes or so, but it did end up actually being really good.
Yeah. So far I like the first movie and what I've seen of the second one. I'll watch the third one and get back to you guys, but I thought it was really fun, really great. Classic horror tropes. But yeah, that's it for me.
No, it isn't.
Wait, what?
You forgot your moment of homophobia.
My moment of homophobia?
Yes, when you rated May low on Letterboxd.
Oh my god.
I was waiting for you to bring that up. How dare you?
I literally buried that in the recesses of my mind. Okay, yeah, I also watched May. So you'll probably listen to the little thing we did for Pride Month where we go through and I talk about bi movies, Mike talks about gay movies, and we have Willow on and she's talking about trans horror movies. So I was trying to go through and find bisexuality in horror movies, which was really fucking hard. So I tried to go watch a bunch of like newer ones that I hadn't seen and older ones I hadn't seen, including May, to see if I could add it to my list instead of what I had. But yeah, I didn't really love May. I don't know, Anna Faris, I just can't take her seriously. I love her, but I can't take her seriously. And the doll, what the fuck is the doll? And I just found May to be like really like unsettling and weird as a character. And I was just kind of like, what the fuck? Like it was okay.
Oh, yes. Well, yes.
But I have watched it just after watching American Mary. Did I talk about American Mary?
No, you didn't.
Last week?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't believe so.
Okay, I watched American Mary. That's been on my list forever. You guys know I love Catherine
Isabel.
Yeah.
Yes, queen.
So I put that on and I was just like so enamored, so in love. Such a great movie. Even if it's not, it is. I don't care. I thought it was really fun, really gory. And I'd watch Catherine Isabel do fucking anything. But yeah, I watched that and then I watched May and I was like, this ain't hitting. I just want my main bitch, Catherine. So yeah. Sorry about my little lapse in homophobia, but yeah,
okay,
May is
it's
not
fine.
my favorite.
You're forgiven.
Maybe I'll rewatch it down the line. But yeah, that's all I've been up to. Mike, how have you not been homophobic?
Okay, so, well, first of all, I'm currently reading a book, believe it or not. It's going to take me forever, but it is actually, it turns out, just like our accidental Pride pick with The Taking of Deborah Logan, this was an accidental Pride book pick. Like 8 people recommend this to me. They all read the same copy, and I now have that copy, and it's absolutely fucking destroyed and shit-hauled and, like, covered in stains and falling apart. And so it turns out it's this, like, queer, I guess going to be horror book. I'm not that far into it. It's called Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. I think people have been like making TikToks about it because it's one of those books that like everyone reads and goes, holy fuck. So far, I haven't even read the back of the book, but so far, it starts with this couple, two women, who for about 10 pages, I thought they were sisters, and turns out they're wives. But one of them has a job where she goes in submarines, you know, like every few weeks or whatever. And the other wife works from home. And before the book starts, she does one of her expeditions and the submarine loses power and disappears for like a few weeks at a time. And then all of a sudden the wife shows up and like she's okay, but she's got like weird stuff going on with her body. And she's really like mentally unwell and like doing obsessive compulsive things and everything and like getting under running water all the time and stuff. So they're sort of like going through what their lives were like before, and it switches back and forth. So I'm assuming something horrific happened and something horrific is going to happen. But so far it's really, really good. It's really interesting and like mysterious and cool. So it's well written. So I'll let you know how that is probably next episode. And I haven't watched a lot of movies because I have been like working a lot and stuff, but I did have a chance to have a marathon last week of X and Pearl again in preparation for the upcoming Thursday trip to Maxine. Got tickets booked.
Hell yeah.
Can't wait. It's going to be iconic.
You gonna be on the Now slaying, Mike?
Actually, I might be able to because I'm going to have watched it.
Oh, shit.
But think about it. I'm always working and I never get to go see movies, but like this is the one movie since Priscilla that I get to see in the first 24 hours it's out. So you might actually see me on a Now slaying. Hooray.
Exciting.
Crazy. I'm not holding my breath. I'm sure something will come up. But
don't hold your breath, but it's definitely like a over 50% chance.
Whoa.
So yeah, of course I like watched those on Blu-ray and adored them and was just like lamenting with our friends like, why aren't there 4Ks? Because this would look insane. And other than that, so I decided this is actually horror related. I always have like weird or like shitty or just kind of like shows on that I've seen in the background like 800 times just so I don't really have to pay attention to it, you know, usually while I'm gaming or reading or whatever. And all of a sudden I was on Prime the other day and I was just like, oh, I can't sleep. Like I need to put something on that I've seen before, and nothing was just hitting. And then all of a sudden I realized, oh my God, I'm going to rewatch this shitty show again from the beginning, and it's The Vampire Diaries.
Oh my God, love it.
I knew Jill was going to lose, and I was like, this was 100% a Jill show back in the day.
on DVD.
Yeah, so I decided to, because like when it first started, I was like, oh my God, Kevin Williamson doing an adaptation. And when I was like probably a teenager, I found those books in a used shop, and I really enjoyed them.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Because I read all those books.
Oh, I read all of...
I watched the show first.
No, okay, yeah, and that's why.
So
I read it... This was years before the show ever came out.
Right.
I read actually all of that author's books that I could get my hands on, and I really enjoyed them. Then the show came out, and I was like, oh my God, Kevin Williamson doing this? It's going to be really good. And then I saw who they cast as the main character, and I was like, oh shit, it's the awful, like, atrocious actress from Degrassi: The Next Generation. I can't believe...
Dobrev, shut the fuck up.
Oh, man, she can't act her way out of a wet paper bag. Now, I will tell you this. She was better than she was in Degrassi.
She's so good.
Just, like, literally by, like, a hair.
And what about the Salvatore brothers? Hot as fuck.
Oh, I love them. I love Ian Somerhalder. So yeah, I never, like, it wasn't until the end of the first season that I started watching it, and then I got really into it, and then I fell off again. So I'm, like, gonna actually rewatch it and watch all of it. So yeah, that's all the garbage I've been consuming.
That's so exciting.
Ro, what about you? I know, it's just like, I was like, Jill's gonna love it, and I'm gonna tell her that I restarted Vampire Diaries.
I'm gonna start.
If only people could see the video of me and Colton just having no idea what is going on in this conversation.
They're like glazed. They're like fucking CW TV shows.
I'm on another plane of existence, just completely zoned out.
I'm surprised, because Rowan likes Riverdale, so... It's like the same level.
I've seen like one episode of Vampire Diaries. I was forced to watch it at some point, but it didn't grab me.
Did a girl make you watch it?
Yes, of course.
Amazing.
That is
Oh
amazing.
shit! Wait, before Ro goes on, I actually forgot another thing that I was watching. Because Riverdale reminded me, because it's executive produced by the guy who made Riverdale, and it's Pretty Little Liars: Original Sin.
Oh my god! I also
Which
love
the new
Pretty Little
season
Liars.
just came on. So I was like, oh crap, I gotta go back and watch the first season. And I'm like
Oh my
3
God.
episodes in, and I'm loving that it's like a slasher homage. It takes
I
like
need to
that
watch
teen thriller and then turn it
Uh-huh.
into a slasher. So anyway, sorry, Ro, go ahead. I just wanted to throw that out there. Anybody who's a fan of that, let's talk.
I've got it on my list to watch. I do like Pretty Little Liars, so
Yeah.
That's good.
yeah. So I guess that makes me kind of a dirtbag. So the first thing I've been watching, just really embracing the new dad life. I saw Wish, the first 20 minutes of Wish, I think like 8 times in the last like 3 days.
Rowan, there's better Disney movies. Come on, like, please, just subject yourself to something better than Wish.
I am at the beck and call of our new daughter, and she had never seen Wish. That's all she wanted to see. So we like put it on Disney Plus at the hotel we were at, and she paid attention for about 20 minutes every time, and then did something else, and then was like, I need you to restart it. And then basically every 20 minutes just zoned out. So
It's because she doesn't get all the references. You know, she just doesn't get how it's literally just like remaking and bastardizing all of the other Disney movies. You know, you gotta watch all those first.
You spilled.
I'll have to. Did a couple rewatches since last time we checked in. Rewatched all of Gudetama, An Excellent Adventure. My mother wanted to see it. We were visiting.
Stop it.
It's short. It's only like an hour, all the episodes together. So we watched it. It's 5 stars as always. Like it's just such a good show. Always makes me smile. Rewatch Civil War. We watched that one at work.
So soon.
Yeah, basically I was watching, like, a bunch of other guys were like, hey, we're putting this on. I was like, sure. So watch that, and I still like it. I thought it was still all right. Rewatched No Country for Old Men, which I hadn't seen in, like, forever. Like, I think maybe since it came out. And, I mean, that one's always good. That's, like, one of my favorite Coen brother films, so.
Javier.
Oh yeah,
Chef's
such
kiss.
a menacing villain. He's
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. And then exciting rewatch I did were one of the sponsors of the other week. TerraVision played The Exorcist, the original one, in the theater. So I was, of course, in attendance, and it was kind of fun. I got to take not only my mom, but both of my grandmothers, who had both seen it in the theater when it first came out.
Wow.
So they were very interested in going to see it. They both loved it just as much this time. So that was a fun time, and this is my first time seeing it in theater. I did see that in a drive-in. It was actually the double feature to when I saw Nightmare on Elm Street at the drive-in. They played that and then The Exorcist. So I've kind of got to experience in all the ways. And it's The Exorcist. It slaps. And then I watched, basically just trying to, like, catch up on stuff I missed, or, you know, that kind of stuff. I got to watch Unfrosted, which was just bad. It wasn't good. I think on Letterboxd I gave it 2 stars, and that was only because they bring back Don Draper and Roger from Mad Men. They do, like, a guest spot where they're doing their Mad Men thing. And I was like, yeah, this gets 2 stars because I just love Mad Men so much. But it's not good. Jerry just needs to hang it up. Just enjoy living off your checks from Seinfeld, and don't direct anything or write anything, or just leave it to the new professionals at least. I watched Bratz, which is the new documentary about the Brat Pack that came out.
Oh, it's not about the Charlie XCX album?
No,
I thought you were talking about, like, the Bratz dolls.
Big-headed dolls.
Yeah.
Oh, also that, yeah.
No, this is about the Brat Pack. So, you know, like Rob Lowe and who else was in that? I don't know. All the Emilio
Estevez, Demi Moore. Yeah, like literally like 20 people.
And this is done by Andrew. I can't remember his name. He was in a bunch of the movies.
Andrew McCarthy.
Yeah, Andrew McCarthy, who's like, I don't know, kind of like the least popular one.
That's why he's making the movie.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Basically, he's like a food and travel guy now. That's what he does, is a journalist for food and travel, but he had all this trauma from being labeled Brat Pack and claimed it ruined his acting career, and he, goes around and interviews all the other members that he hasn't talked to in 20 years. It's a really bizarre kind of documentary because no one else cares. And everyone else
those
had
people
pretty good
had
careers.
Insane careers.
Yeah.
How did it ruin your career? Everybody else went on to be
an insane career.
Famous.
That's why he said he didn't.
It's just girl, have a little bit of self-awareness here.
No.
Sadly, Molly Ringwald declined to be in it. She didn't want to be interviewed. And then, what's his name? The guy from the Breakfast Club, the Judd guy.
Judd Nelson.
He kept teasing that they were going to interview him. And then, literally, I'm spoiling it now, so pause it for 10 seconds. The end of it, he just gets a call from him and it ends. You don't know what the call's about. It probably isn't even him, really. Because obviously he doesn't want to be in that.
Wait, is he angling for a sequel or
probably.
a tell-all?
But I will say
wiener.
It's worth watching just for the Emilio Estevez interview because it is so wild. It's just so confrontational. Emilio really doesn't want to do the interview. He's asking questions and Emilio is just giving short answers and looking pissed the entire time. It's just one of the most unhinged interviews I've ever seen that make this Andrew guy look terrible. And he just left it in. He didn't edit it or cut it out, which he does with most of the stuff. He looks like an idiot the entire documentary, and he just left it there. It's just bigger celebrities than him being get over it, man. It's not that big of a deal. So yeah, I know, something to watch. I also watched If.
Oh no, you watched that?
I did see it. It was not good. It was just weird. I could see a kernel of what they were trying to do, but I don't think it was very effective. If I want a best friend movie, I'm just gonna watch Drop Dead Fred. So
oh yes, of course, obviously.
How was Krasinski's directing? Was it the same caliber of A Quiet Place or A Quiet Place Part 2?
Really bizarre. I just I don't know who the movie is for. It's insanely dark. The first 20 minutes of this movie are just a brutal picture of someone dying from cancer. You're this has got to be an adult drama. And Krasinski plays a dad in it that is super unhinged. It's just fucking weird. Everything about it is weird. A lot of the jokes are fully adult jokes. Even though I'm pretty sure this is aimed as a kid's movie, it's just I was this is way too dark for young kids. It's way too boring for older kids. And adults are just going to think it sucks. I just don't know who it was for. And then I double featured that with Back to Black, the Amy Winehouse picture, which also was not very good. Now, I admittedly am not a big Amy Winehouse fan. I know a couple of her songs. That's about it. Yeah, I kind of miss the Amy Winehouse train. But this is, you don't have to know anything to know there's something off with this movie. I didn't look anything up about the husband or the dad or anything till after. And I knew while watching it, I was these guys definitely had a hand in it. Cause it's oh, this drug addict criminal boyfriend, he definitely has nothing to do with Amy Winehouse, getting addicted to drugs. And it was just it was bizarre stuff where those two look really good. And they basically just try to victim blame Amy Winehouse and be oh, we all tried to help her, but we just couldn't stop her. She was a monster. And then it does it's just a lot of weird musical biopic sins are done in this that you would expect from a movie from the 90s or something. So yeah, I thought that was just pretty, whatever. Me and Colton saw A Quiet Place day one, and then the new cinematic masterpiece, The Exorcism, Russell Crowe horror movie about, he's not driving a moped, I'll leak that. So you can listen to our Now Slaying that is already out by the time you're listening to this on what we thought of that. And then the last couple I watched, I did a double feature with a friend. I finally saw Frankenhooker, which is done by the same creator as Brain Damaged and Basket Case. And I never really give my opinions on horror movies because that might actually be a good pick for the podcast at some point. So I'll leave my opinions on that. And then I watched The Call Girl of Cthulhu, which is done by the same director that did the WNUF Halloween special. And this was, I don't know if this will ever make the podcast. This is a very direct-to-video movie.
Doesn't it star like a bunch of strippers or something?
Yeah, it's pretty much strippers and porn stars and stuff. It's like entirely nudity and like really low budget violence. It had its fun moments, but yeah, like unless you're into extremely, extremely low budget stuff, it's probably one that's kind of skippable. And then I watched like a lot of trash because I was like just putting stuff on to fall asleep. So I watched the new OJ documentary that was called OJ, How He Really Did It, that's presented by TMZ.
Oh my god.
Wait, is it based on his book, OJ, How I Would Have Done It or whatever?
So you know what? This was actually kind of interesting because...
Or If I Did It or whatever it was called.
The guy that...
If I Did It or something.
Yeah. If I Did It. This is, what's his name? Harvey Levenstein, the guy that owns TMZ, that's like the face of TMZ.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know a lot about him, but apparently he was, like, the reporter. That's how he kind of became famous, was he was the main reporter for a local news channel that covered the O.J. Simpson case, and that made him, like, a national journalist.
I believe it. Think about all the, like, you would never know... like no offense to lawyers, but like people don't know lawyers' names and stuff. But like that case, just like journalists, lawyers, everybody like even remotely involved with it was famous.
Yeah. So like basically he was a young journalist, and like that case propelled him to be like, CNN and Fox and all these huge news stations would like bring him on to talk about the O.J. Simpson case because he was like this Hollywood lawyer turned journalist. And so it's basically just him talking about like stories that he's never told, just about, because he was in Hollywood, like he was friends with some people that were involved in the case, and it wasn't like as exploitative as I thought a TMZ thing would be. So I like, is it great? No, it's like a Tubi original documentary, but it was all right. And then I also watched Love You to Death, and that was the Gabby Petito documentary about her death that Tubi put out. I was on Tubi, so.
Did her boyfriend ever get like pinned for that afterwards?
Yes, he admitted to it. When he killed himself, he wrote in a letter that he did it, but he tried to frame it that she had fallen and he thought she was dying, and that he felt she wanted him to kill her to put her out of her misery. But basically, like, after they did the autopsies, there's no way that actually happened.
Yeah.
And
they actually just found a bunch of new evidence recently, I think.
Yeah, so, like I said, it's a Tubi documentary. Those are never that great, but I didn't know anything about the case. Like, I remember when it happened, and I didn't really look much into it, and that's literally all I've been watching. I've just been busy. Colton, what about you?
Well, I've watched nowhere near as much of what Rowan has seen. I feel like that was, like, non-ironically, like, 20 minutes there, but I've also seen The Exorcism and A Quiet Place day one. For our thoughts, obviously check out the Now Slaying. Other than that, I checked out I Saw the TV Glow, which, did anyone else watch this afterwards?
I have not watched it yet. It's still on my list.
Okay.
Maybe tonight.
Yeah. Ooh. Like obviously this was one that we were constantly mentioning on Now Slaying, like, oh, next time we're going to be covering that because it's obviously going to come to theaters here, and it just never did.
It didn't.
So it finally released on streaming. This is Jane Schoenbrun's follow-up to We're All Going to the World Fair. And it's one of those movies that if Rowan was reviewing it, he would just be like, I like the vibes, man. Like, and when I was watching it, you know what? It has good vibes. I'm not going to lie. It has like, obviously it has all the like neon purplish, pinkish lighting, but there's also just kind of like musical interstitials throughout, like almost like a David Lynch movie that I thought was pretty interesting and like kind of like ethereal and, you know, dreamlike. The movie itself is kind of about Justice Smith just making friends with someone who has like a similar obsession with like this TV show, like from the 90s, almost like an obsession with like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer or something. And essentially kind of building this relationship, this friendship through like watching the TV shows until one day they just, you know, his friend vanishes. And I thought overall it was really good. It is weird. And also like kind of the third act when it tries to kind of reveal what the movie's about. I think a lot of the editing and whatnot kind of like leads you astray. I didn't think it was like kind of coalesced at the end to kind of really like tell me essentially what the movie was about, which I guess the movies don't always have to do that, but it seemed like messy when I was trying to say something. But I think the performances by Justice Smith and Bridget Lundy Payne are like absolutely like great in the movie. And I'm like a Justice Smith hater. Like I think he's like terrible in most movies I've seen, especially Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which is a bad movie, and he makes it like almost unbearable. But in this, they're both really good, and Bridget Lundy Payne in particular, like they get a bunch of monologues of like just like wild shit that they have to espouse and kind of sell you on. And the fact that they like believe so much what they're saying, it really like sells it and kind of like brings you into the world. And you know, it's very effective. So yeah, I think it's a kind of a step up in a lot of technical ways from We're All Going to the World's Fair, and obviously also just like a bigger swing. But I kind of liked it for different reasons compared to We're All Going to the World's Fair. It's definitely worth a watch if you enjoyed that, or if you're interested at all in this, you know, new A24 movie, you know.
Your description of it made me sort of feel like it's a continuation of some of the ideas in the other movie. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely similar DNA there, but this one's more so, instead of being focused on the internet, it's more so focused on like a fascination with like a CRT TV series or something like that, you know? And once again, like finding community, finding people that are like-minded to yourself. And this one is a little bit more explicit with like the trans narrative, and it's not so much of like meta commentary as kind of more so like the text of the movie to a certain degree. So yeah, you know, if that sounds interesting to you, probably check it out. In addition to that, I saw Inside Out 2, which is very different than I saw the TV Glow. Is anyone here a fan of the original Inside Out? Like,
yeah, I love the first one.
Okay, so for me, I thought it was okay. Like a lot of people like say it's like one of the best, you know, Pixar movies, for, you know, of the last 10 years for sure, or like more than that. And for me, this one, it feels very familiar to the original, where it spends like the first 10 to 20 minutes kind of explaining like, hey, we're inside a young girl's head. These are memories. This is how we form core memories, and you know, core memories band together to make beliefs, and that's how we lead our life. And it's just kind of like, okay, sure, we're explaining, you know, kind of like emotional development and emotional intelligence. And the big kind of reveal of this movie is more so like Riley's forming beliefs based on these memories, but then this core belief of her being a good person kind of gets ejected to the back of her mind, and then new emotions crop up. Most importantly, anxiety, which starts developing different emotions and kind of leading her astray and maybe forming some more toxic beliefs. And the movie is just kind of like meanders. It just kind of goes on, and you're just kind of watching this anxiety emotion as almost like the antagonist kind of like ruin Riley's life a little bit to a certain degree. It all takes place over like a hockey training camp, so it's very small stakes. It's all over like one weekend. But for me, I was just kind of left like, yeah, a lot of that just felt like Inside Out 1. We brought in 4 or 5 new emotions with like obviously a new voice cast to kind of spice things up a little bit, but it just kind of felt more of the same. And I was actually disappointed that in Inside Out 1, like the big, like almost like cliffhanger that it ends on, it's almost like a joke, but it's like a new button appears on the console and it says puberty in big capital letters and sets up like, all right, things are gonna get fucking wild next movie. And of course, right at the beginning of this movie, they just put puberty button like in a little capsule and they like launch it into the back of the mind. And they're like, we're not dealing with that right now. And it's like, okay,
that's
Pixar,
turning red.
Yeah, exactly. They were like, we only deal with puberty in the movies that go directly to Disney Plus and nobody sees. So they can't put that in Inside Out 2. So it was okay. It had a couple of like, more poignant moments. There's a moment where kind of like Joy realizes that, hey, maybe as we age, we all have less joy. So I shouldn't be in there. And I was like, oh, wow, that's kind of like nice that how we all just get depressed as we get older. But other than that, I was like, the rest of the movie is kind of whatever. It was all right. I also checked out the original Omen from 1976. I don't think I've ever seen it, but obviously I very much enjoyed the first Omen earlier this year, which, spoiler, basically directly leads into the Omen from 1976. So I was like, if it kind of pops up and it makes sense for me to watch it, I will. And essentially I was having a movie afternoon with a friend of mine, and we were just kind of chatting, kind of scrolling through, trying to find something to watch. And the Omen was kind of trending because of the new one. And I was like, you know what? I don't think I've ever seen that. I saw the 2006 remake, and I was like, let's check out the original. And the movie was awesome. I really liked it. Like, Richard Donner directs the hell out of it. There was this weird feeling as I was watching it of like, obviously, they don't make them like they used to, but it was also just like this, like, it felt like everyone cared so much watching this movie. It wasn't like just like a disposable horror movie. Like, the cinematography was crazy. The blocking, like, revealing like things on different planes in the image. Some of like the action scenes, or like, the big horror moments, is just literally shit like you wouldn't be able to do now. There's a scene where they're kind of driving through a drive-in zoo, and there's just like 50 baboons on screen, like beating up the Jeep and shit and jumping on it. And I was just like, dude, like, in a modern movie, this would just be all like shitty CGI. But like when you're watching this, it's like so palpably like crazy. I'm literally like, how did they get away with this? Like, it's insane what I'm seeing on screen. And it was just like so exciting as I was watching it. I just had the completely like wrong idea in my head of what this movie was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be like slow burn, kind of slow moving, like, your traditional like late 60s, early 70s pacing. But this was like, they just, put their foot on the gas and they don't let up. It's an awesome movie. It's like globe trotting all over the place, like, big budget. I don't know. I was super impressed by it. And then when I was just checking it out and like we were getting to the third act, there's just a crazy decapitation at one point that, completely shocked my friend. And I was also like, damn, I wasn't expecting a whole head to fly off and like spin with like spurting blood everywhere in this movie. Anyways,
especially in like, what was it, 1974 or something?
76, yeah. It was like pretty brutal, yeah. I don't know, it's a badass movie. When I was watching this, I was enjoying it so much that I was like, I might like this more than The Exorcist, which is a crazy thing to say, but I very much enjoyed it. And also, it kind of made the first Omen a little bit worse for me, because when I was watching the first Omen, I remember Rowan and I were talking about it like period accuracy, and I felt so much like it was actually in the 70s. And when I was actually watching the original Omen, obviously it was contemporary at the time, they were shooting in the 70s, I was just like, oh my God, there's just so much texture and so much life to the world we're seeing that it's like, obviously they're living in that moment, all these weird toys and, just like 10 times the amount of cars and the fashion and everything, that even though the first Omen I thought did a great job, when you're actually in the 70s and filming it, it's just on another level. So yeah, I thought it was great. I really enjoyed the original Omen. I mean, I'm sure most of us have seen it by now, but if you haven't, it's awesome. You should definitely check it out. And then Jill, you messaged me earlier this week and you were like, somebody better be watching House of the Dragon. We have to talk about it on the episode.
I can't talk about it anymore because then I saw on TikTok people are like, okay, so what I wanted to talk to you about was that scene of Eamon like curled up in a ball at the whorehouse.
Okay.
Because I was looking at it and I was like, suddenly, this hot guy is not so hot. And then now I go on TikTok and everyone's like, stop body shaming him. Blah, 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 blah. You missed the point. It's supposed to be a maternal thing. I was like, shit,
oh, yeah, it was just mommy issues, like, to the core of that
and I was
scene,
like, but yeah, I went on TikTok before everyone started being, like, annoying about it, and they're like, wow, all of my feelings for this man just went out the door. I thought it was funny.
House of the Dragon, I think the first 2 episodes are out as of right now. Probably the third episode's probably going to be on in, like, an hour. I thought it's pretty great so far. I thought both of them kind of culminate in this, like, 10 to 15-minute sequence that is... unique is probably the wrong word for it, but it's kind of like this own little self-contained story, and it feels like so like complexly drawn, and how it all plays out. It's it's really interesting to follow. Like, I specifically love the beat of, like, the rat catchers crawling through, like, the Red Keep in the first episode and, like, how all that culminates. If you've watched the first season of House of the Dragon, you should definitely watch the second. The first 2 episodes are really strong, I thought. And a lot of, like, what they ended the season on in season 1 is, like, actually, like, paying off, that I'm hoping we're building to, like, some pretty great stuff ahead. Have you been enjoying it as well, Jill? Or
I mean, I enjoy House of the Dragon. It's just that I really enjoyed season 1, and I feel like season 2 is just not as effective. Like, at the end of every episode during the first season, and typically in every episode of Game of Thrones, it leaves you on a cliffhanger and you're like, oh my god, I have to wait until next week to see what's happening. And for the second episode, at least, of the second season of House of the Dragon, I was just kind of like, oh, that's it. But I don't know, I just got bad vibes because I know bad things are going to happen, and I guess that makes me a little anxious.
Yeah.
I think I have trauma from Game of Thrones, the way that ended. So I'm a little scared, but so far it's good, yeah.
Sounds to me like you need to watch Inside Out 2 and learn about that anxiety.
Dude.
True.
Well, with that, Mike, why don't we have you introduce our film for tonight and just briefly talk about why you chose it?
Okay, so tonight we are talking about 1973's Belladonna of Sadness. Basically, I chose this because I really wanted an excuse to watch it again. I haven't seen it in years, and I've been trying to, like, muster my courage to watch it again, so I was like, fuck. And, I just thought, honestly, it was something different. I was like, it's the middle of summer, like, let's not get lazy about our picks. I thought this will, like, spice it up a little bit, and it's just something very unique and different that we haven't really done anything quite like. And I don't know, I just wanted to talk about it and have everybody watch it and see what they thought. So yeah, honestly, that's it. I just, thought it was such a masterpiece of a movie. And I actually had some typical Mike pick. I know this is probably also a typical Mike pick in a way, but, like, I had, on my list right before I announced it when we were recording the last episode, of, like, 3 other things, and they were all kind of like, like a 70s slasher and stuff. And I was like, no, you know what? I'm going to do Belladonna of Sadness. Let's mix it up a little bit. So yeah.
Well, with that, let's get into the trailer, and we'll be back with the synopsis and first experiences.
Belladonna 美しい女 Belladonna 恋をした女 悲しみの足音はまだ聞こえてこない
Belladonna of Sadness was directed by Eiichi Yamamoto and written by Eiichi Yamamoto and Yoshiyuki Fukuda. And the story is as follows. After being gang raped by an evil baron and his courtiers on her wedding night, a peasant girl named Jian makes a pact with the devil, who transforms her into a vengeful, black-robed vision of madness and desire.
So we'll start with our first experiences. Is this our first time seeing it, or are we heavy into the horror anime, I guess we're saying this is? Mike, this was your pick. You kind of already said whether you saw it before.
He's seen it before, he said.
Yeah, I've seen it. It was years ago in the, like, era of let's get fucked up and just watch all these crazy movies that have, you know, the like reputations of being like fucked up or surreal or beautiful or all of the above. So yeah, that was a night, let me tell you. Have you, Ro? Have you ever seen it?
No, I didn't even know this was a movie. Yeah, I literally have nothing else to say other than that.
Okay, I mean, if you didn't know it existed,
yeah. I can't say I was really up on like 70s Japanese adult animation of the time. So
what a loser.
Well, yeah, what a loser. What about you, Colton?
No, it's a first time for me as well. I feel like I may have seen images, like specifically like her face with like the purple hair and shit, like the cover, or like I may have even seen it like represented as like a tattoo or something before. Like
people get tattoos of this all the time.
Yeah, like she looks familiar to me, but like in terms of the movie, like I had to ask in our group chat, like, what's the name of the movie again? And I felt like I was forgetting the title like every 5 minutes, like in my life the past week. Like I said to like a couple of people I work with, like I was like, I gotta watch this weird weeb horror movie for the weekend, and they were like, oh, what is it? Like, you know, they like anime, and I'm like, fuck, I can't remember. I don't know what it's called. I can't remember it at all.
Wow.
So yeah, this is my first time seeing it, and I will say in the early portions of this movie, I was seriously thinking about, I think we should form a council and vet all of Mike's picks before they're allowed to make the air, was what was going through my head in the beginning.
There has to be checks and balances.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, this is my first time seeing it. What about you, Jill?
Also, first time seeing it for me. Never had heard of it. But yeah, I put it on this morning. Had to watch it illegally online with ads, so that was interesting.
Minions 4. Or right? Despicable Me 4. It's going to be a big film.
So many Despicable Me 4 ads I had to watch over and over again. But I will say, I find it really interesting. Out of like all the anime I've seen and manga and stuff, there seems to be like a fascination with French culture and French everything with the Japanese. So yeah, I thought that was cool. That's all.
Well, with that, let's open the doors to this. Let's get in. I don't really have anything witty. I feel like it's sacrilege to.
I was gonna say, be careful with how you introduce this one.
Let's get into the sperm devils of it all. Which, I mean, we can start off with that. Like, what's the deal here? It's just like a little. Is he supposed to be a sperm like the devil, and then he kind of just keeps growing into a giant dick, essentially? Like,
I thought he was a tiny dick in the beginning.
Yeah, I thought he was a tiny dick as well.
Like when he first appears, he's like white.
Yeah, he's flaccid.
Oh, just like when he first appeared, he was white, and then there was like kind of like trailings behind him. So I thought he was like wet. So
maybe
I was just...
we missed that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's moments in the early parts where there's like, whiteness or colored stuff like swirling around her, I guess. But whether or not that's like the devil in a different form, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
But like for me, the first time where he's like corporeal is like when he's a little dick, like he's little like a white thing with a pink top, and it's like obviously very phallic.
Satan is a dick.
Yeah, literally in this one.
Yeah, and he keeps getting bigger.
Yep.
He becomes a very large dick.
Well done.
Both figuratively and physically. I mean, obviously, the first thing I feel like anyone's going to notice when they turn this on is that this is essentially like an 1.5 hour long music video. It's like a music movie, but done with a little more talent and skill. This isn't a Jennifer Lopez music film.
No.
The first thing I
Why
noticed
you gotta bring J-Lo into this? Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, gotta throw shade at J-Lo. For me, I noticed right away, I was like, man, this is edited like an episode of Katie and Orby, where it's just like still images and then they slowly move, every now and then, where I'm like, oh, yikes, this is gonna be quite a long watch, is what I was thinking.
What is Katie and Orby?
Oh, man. I gotta search up some images. Yeah, Katie and Orby. Like if you woke up too early as a kid, it would be on before like Little Lulu or like Magic School Bus or anything. It'd be Katie and Orby. And that's when you knew, like, you were like, I should still be asleep because they don't even know how to animate. This is so old. Yeah. It's like literally like, just still images like back and forth, and they all
Katie
move really fucked.
And Orby. That's all
Yes,
I remember.
absolutely. It's like discount E.T., where E.T. is like pink.
Oh my god!
Yeah, he's a
not,
little alien.
not Dollarama E.T.
Anyways, when I was watching this, it reminded me of how Katie and Orby is animated for a lot of it. And I was like, oh no, what am I watching?
It reminded me of Pink Floyd's The Wall, but make it Japanese. Especially with the psychedelic music and the psychedelic visuals, especially with the flowers representing, female genitalia and all that. I thought it was very on point with that, and especially it being from the 70s. I think it really shows that, it has that vibe.
Yeah, that I was going to say, one of my notes was I was like, by the middle of it, where I'm like, okay, this is mostly going to have like this music behind it and these songs. I did get the Pink Floyd vibes. Now, I know I did text at least Mike, and I probably asked Jill, because we were on video, I remember, when we were first looking up where to watch this, and I was like, is this supposed to look like I'm watching an episode of Reading Rainbow? Because that's what it reminded me of when they read you the books, and they're just like showing you the pictures, but narrating it.
A still image that like the camera pans across and moves around slowly. Yeah, absolutely.
But I will say, like, as this went on, like, I really was into the animation style. Like, I couldn't get over how well this is animated.
Well, it was not what you expect.
Yeah.
Right? Like...
Yeah, as this went on, like, I was really into my 2 buttermilk pancakes with cinnamon crumb topping, sweet cream cheese icing,
Grand Slam.
Good stuff, yeah. My Denny's cinnamon roll pancake breakfast, man, oh man, just makes this movie go down nice.
It only would have been better if you were at Denny's watching this.
I think that's like a crime.
Yeah, I don't think you could without going
to
on
be
a
in
list.
public with this on. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, obviously, I don't even know if adult animation is the word to describe this. This is like XXX adult animation.
This is not even that bad, really. Like, it's for the 70s. You should see some of these animated movies.
It was intentionally erotic, if you read up on it, Mike. It's like the ending of like an erotic animation trilogy of movies.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is this is like nothing, really. Listen, I stayed up late and watched a lot of random shit on Bravo and Showcase when I was a kid, and this is like just... It's erotic, yes, but it's like barely,
I've just never seen a guy's dick turn into a giraffe before I saw this movie. So it's just, this is breaking new
First
ground for
time
me.
for everything.
That scene where like she kind of like seduces all the villagers or whatever, and they're just like turning into like animals fucking and like that whole scene. I was just like, man, I definitely.
I was like, this is a Mike pick.
When I was rewatching it, I had my windows open because it was warm out and it was really loud, and I could hear the neighbors like out with their kids in the driveway. And I'm like, oh my
all
god!
These moans and shit. Yeah.
I was like, listen, whatever. I'm watching a movie.
True.
I'm allowed to watch a movie if I want.
I thought as a whole, like, I thought the music was pretty awesome too. Like, I really
it was amazing.
I
want to like collector's vinyl of this so bad.
Yeah, I would listen to this like on Spotify or something.
Mm-hmm. It's very like kind of prog rock and like psych folk. It actually reminded me a lot of like really early Fleetwood Mac from before any of the girls joined, and it was like really trippy, surreal like folk music.
I guess I can't get away without saying that I thought the music was a banger.
Bangers.
Bangers.
One thing I really liked about the animation was like the watercolor style.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of reminded me of a game I used to play on PC. It's called Child of Light, and it was like also telling a story through kind of watercolor still pictures, like a storybook. So that really reminded me of that. And the other thing I wanted to say was that, even though this came out in 1973, it is really kind of timeless. Like, it doesn't look dated. It doesn't feel that old or that dated. And, it still lives up to that today.
1,000%. I mean, it's because it's watercolor. Watercolor is timeless and beautiful and gorgeous.
To me, this looked like it was from 1973.
Oh, man.
Okay, well, congratulations.
Mostly in like the style, right? Like this sort of like the style they're using in this movie, it feels like much more of like an older like anime style, and like even like the way they draw the noses and like how like stretched out everyone is, like proportions and whatnot. It just looked like an older style to me. But I mean, the watercolor stuff was nice, and there's some some weird ass things in this movie that they do with it. I like specifically like when her skin like it's like white or alabaster, and it just like fades away into the like the shots and whatnot. Like a lot of that is really good, and there's a lot of silhouette work that is very I don't want to keep saying just very good, but it is very good.
It's like they use a lot of the like it's just using the empty space as a like
very effective
medium.
I will say I did get a little confused while watching it, because there's like a lot of times where I kind of knew the synopsis of it, that I thought she died, and then I'm like, oh, wait a second, no, she didn't die. Because, like, the first part where she comes back after the rape, I was like, oh, the husband killed her, and then it's like, no, and then it was like another time, I'm like, oh, she dies here, and then it's like, nope, and then I was just like, Jesus, does she even die? What is going on?
I also felt that too. Like when he chokes her and she just goes unconscious.
Yeah, and that's when the devil shows up. So I was like, oh, okay, she's gonna make this deal and then come back to life. But no, it just seems he kind of appears and is, in her unconscious mind.
In her moment of crisis.
Yeah. A lot of this, you just kind of have to go with it and keep watching it to see what happens to really get the plot.
Yeah, it was the sort of thing for me where I just found it kind of exhausting in the beginning. Like, as this goes on, I do enjoy the movie more and more, and I don't know if it's due to my Denny's breakfast or due to the movie getting better. but I did get meal delivery about 30 minutes into it, and then from then on out, I was on board. So
because you were hangry at the beginning.
Jury's out. But
jury's in. Jury's out to lunch now themselves.
But I think for me, it was like, having the two names that are very similar, and also like just constantly being like, okay, is there anything that's like kind of real in this world, or is it all just surreal and whatever? Because when a movie is completely surreal and you can't really believe anything you're saying, it just kind of gets a little bit exhausting for me sometimes, because it's literally like anything can happen, but also like nothing really matters.
I know,
either.
Because you're very much like logic. It's plotted out. It needs to be charted, and everything needs to connect.
Yes. So when I'm watching the beginning of this movie, I'm like, all right, there's this little little devil dick flying around, and this is a crazy like violent gang rape scene that's like kind of horrific when I'm watching it, and then it's like, okay, now that's over though. So where else are we going? And it's it's very like, it is very much very surreal and whatnot, but at a certain point it does actually have a plot and it starts to make sense. And I think once it started to like make sense and kind of coalesce towards like, I was like, okay, eventually she's gonna get some sort of vengeance, I believe, on these people, or like, I was more into it, especially since I also just kind of got on its wavelength, because I was like, all right, the whole movie is gonna be like Katie and Orby, just nice and slow. Everyone's moving kind of funny, that I was like, all right, let's just see if this goes anywhere. So yeah, I think for me, like the movie started to get better, like right when she started like selling yarn or selling wool, and I was like, okay, she's making a life for herself outside of her husband, and her husband's becoming a tax collector and all this stuff. I was like, okay, I'm following that. There's a narrative progressing here. It's not just like a woman who died 5 minutes into the movie and then it's like all in her head or something, there was something happening.
Yeah, Gene, I thought, just like really ultimate fuckboy. Just Gene was a piece of shit.
Jean?
Is it Jean?
Jean?
Jean? I mean,
you could say the husband if you want.
Husband.
Before we started recording, I was literally like, how are we going to say these names? And then Rowan just, ruins it right away. So
that's what
as he does, and that's why we love him. Literally, that's our favorite aspect of you.
Just breaks down, just sucking at that Lord's teeth like it's nobody's business.
Yeah, how do we feel about that? Because obviously he winds up losing his hand and becomes a drunk and, keeps the door shut on her. But like, are we supposed to like this guy in the third act of this movie? I was kind of confused a little bit about that. Like, and this is skipping like
I don't think
ahead.
so. No.
But she kind of like seduces him, and she seems like into his stump, and she's like rubbing it and whatnot.
Well, listen, don't kink shame her. God.
But I'm wondering, is this just like she wants to fuck, or is she like actually into John again? You know, that's what I was wondering. And like also he tries to have this like heroic moment at the end of the movie, like an outburst, you know, kind of like screaming out in her honor sort of thing. That I was wondering, I was like, are we supposed to like this guy by the end?
Yeah.
I don't know. I still
don't think so.
But
I thought it was like, I mean, I pretty much never liked him, but I felt like it was that like little, even though she was kind of like so far gone at that point, it was this like shred, like a little tiny string still hanging there of like her old life. You know what I mean? And it's like that little smidge of an atom of a possibility. You know what I mean? Like that's still there. Maybe that's just me reading too much into it. I don't know.
I think it makes it more tragic too, because like it's his loss now. He had this woman who he mistreated and abused and whatever. And then she did all these things, and now she's gone, and he feels bad about it, but there's nothing he can do anymore.
Not that he ever did anything to begin
in the
with.
first place.
I mean, he tried to kill her, so.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, to me, I just also kind of took it, which, you know, I figure we always have these conversations with these kind of movies, but I was like, oh, okay, like, you know, we're getting a little redemption for this guy because... You know, we do have a man writing.
That's the vibe I got too, which makes me feel icky. That's all.
Yeah, it's like it's this like feminist story, but then it's like, oh, like let's give a little redemption to this.
I made a mistake. Take me back. Embrace my
I don't think it gives
stump.
him redemption. I think it just shows like how sad.
Yeah, I thought it was actually that he was supposed to be really pathetic.
Sad little man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because, I'm interested in everyone's take, because, like, I saw that, you know, this has kind of been, like, praised, especially now, as, like, a cult classic film or a cult film, but I'd also seen, like, there is a lot of reappraisal on this that people kind of think it's, you know, it's, like, anti-feminist and it's exploitative and that it's really not everything it kind of portrays itself being. And, you know, I guess I was just curious, like, did you guys feel that way? Or, because like I said, I by the end, like, even though I liked the movie, like, overall, of what I was seeing, what I was hearing, that kind of thing, I did, like, it kept being in my head that I'm like, oh yeah, it's, you know, it's very erotic, it's, like, very violent, you know, it's, like, guys in this, like, oh, women, you know, like, can do what they want with their bodies and, you know, have whoever they want, and then I'm like, but I also know that, like, a bunch of men made this movie, and so, like,
yeah,
am I to trust that it was done with the best intentions?
I mean, the worst part about using stuff like that is, like, those are labels that were put on it after the fact anyway, and it's like, I don't know, I personally kind of like movies that are a bit tacky and complicated and knotted and icky, and that aren't just, like, perfect examples of, you know, some ideology that was put on them after the fact. You know, it's just, it's very limiting.
But yeah, I guess what we're contending with to a certain degree is like, why did they make this? Because like stuff like, you know, the movie ending in the way of like, let's say showing that this sort of act spurred on like the French Revolution and showing like that painting and stuff was all added after the fact, right? Like the movie originally didn't end that way. So like, was it explicitly a feminist ending and like read that way when it came out, or was it just a couple of horny Japanese dudes wanting, you know, an excuse to put a bunch of tits in their movie? You know, like you know,
both of these things can be true at the same time.
I know, but what I'm saying when I'm watching it, it's just I'm wondering what the intentions were behind it, and I guess we'll probably never know the true intentions.
Yeah, their director is also dead, so.
Here's the thing. I think people in general have difficulty with accepting like a female villain and also accepting a female villain as empowering. But I personally love a female monster. I love female rage and revenge and all that stuff. And that's what I'm focusing on when I'm watching this. I know a lot of people had trouble with like the rape scene, and a lot of people are like, oh, no matter what you do or how beautiful it is, rape isn't art. Which, sure, but I think also it's important to be able to see that sort of thing in art for the people who have gone through that and can kind of relate to it and, you know, act like as a mirror. So I think it's therapeutic in that way. And it's really powerful, in my opinion, to see Jian come out of this as someone who reclaims her sexuality, who reclaims her power as much as she can until she's trapped in, this vicious cycle of men are going to do whatever they want in the end anyways. But I still think that she's very much a powerful... I don't even think she's a villain, in my opinion. I think she's like a heroine, but I think it is empowering.
I also love that idea of the monstrous feminine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think it's more so just like anime and like Japanese like social norms and whatnot anyways. It's just like anime is just, in my opinion, I'm not a big anime fan, but like most of the time when you watch it, it's just like horny all the time anyways. Like where when I'm watching this, I just don't know if it's purely trying to be just kind of like exploitative in a certain way, because that's the way anime a lot of the time is as well. Like when I was watching it, that I definitely think it's probably from a good place, but I can also understand why people would have some criticisms of it. Like if I was like, hey guys, I'm gonna make my short film, it's about this girl getting gang raped 10 times, but it's empowering, I think there would be a good reason that you guys be like, it's a bit weird that you're making that movie, Colton. Like, which is like essentially what these two dudes were doing back in the day. Obviously, an army of animators around them, but like the people that are steering the ship are just two guys that, I don't know.
I mean, it could go a bad way with that, but I didn't get that vibe from this. And also, I think a big part of this movie, we just reviewed Rocky Horror Picture Show, and a big thing in that is
don't know if you know, Colton.
Yeah, but, accepting your sexuality.
I don't. Explain it to me. I listened to the episode, but being
open with your sexuality, and I think that's a big thing here. Before I knew that the demon was the devil, I thought it was just a figment of her own suppressed sexuality and arousal, which you could say that still is what it is. But when she says, "Oh, a tiny thing like you," and he says, "It's your fault why I'm so small. You never let me grow." I thought that was her like societal, staying chaste and pure for her husband. And even though she does that, she gets raped horrifically and aggressively by all these men anyways. So it's like she can never win, which is a thing that we see over and over in the movie. And I really liked that, in her darkest hour, she took her power back. And even though she is really going through it, and even though horrible things happen to her, she does get power. Like, she's responsible for her husband's success, like, financially. And I thought that also possession and sex being kind of equated in this movie was like a thing. Like, women still don't have autonomy over their own bodies, and same thing with possession. Like, you don't have autonomy over your own body, and same thing with her in this movie. Like, in the beginning, her body was owned by the lords, and it was supposed to be for her husband. Yeah, and I think it was interesting that they struck her down when she was powerless, but they also struck her down when she finally gained power. Like, they cut off her green cloak and everything until she makes a deal with the devil.
Oh,
and
that beautiful cloak.
Yeah. And one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when she finally had it and she says, "I want to become a horrifying woman." I thought that was really cool. So yeah, even though it could be dicey, I think it still is very empowering. And I think it's also about like being attuned to your own sexuality and whatever.
I love my notes. I just want to follow up with like, hey, I think the Lord looks pretty cool in this one.
You're the one who started the discussion, Rowan. Like, that's the thing. I do agree that it winds up being like a feminist film in the end. I just think I can understand how people have the sort of discussion or have like some questions about it. Especially
for sure. But listen, all great art is dicey, so it gives you something to talk about.
Yeah.
I was joking though. I thought the Lord looked pretty cool with like the skull.
Oh,
head
1,000%. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just not
so cool.
I can see how it's offensive also, but I'm personally not offended and I find it empowering, but I can see how others find it otherwise.
I was just going to say, we talked about the Lord. We never talked enough about like, the devil just being a huge dick, literally, just like, well, that guy looks cool too, Rowan. Come on.
Big old fucking cock, of course.
Oh my god.
I did think about it like Jill was talking about, where I was like, okay, like this might just be kind of, her like taking her power back. It's not really the devil. But then I was like, also, it is pretty devious that the fact, at her real moment of need where she's like being burned again, she's being killed again, like he's basically gone. They're like, there's nowhere to be found. It's like, cool, now you're just gonna burn at the stake, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna move on. I did want to say, like, I really also like the part where, like, she does die, actually dies, and basically when he's, you know, convincing her to say, like, I want something bad to happen to these people, and then it, like, the music kicks in, but it, like, totally switches the animation style, and then you just get, like, this montage of just, like, random stuff. There's, like, American flags, and
It's like
there's,
contemporary.
yeah, all this stuff going on, but, like, just for, like, a chunk of that, like, 4 or 5 minutes, it's just, like, a totally different animation style, and I was like, if I was high right now, I'd really enjoy this.
Yeah, don't watch this movie unless
Yeah.
you've had an edible. I mean, watch it, but it's going to be a very different experience high, which you should watch it as.
Edibles definitely enhance. I'd like to say potion enhanced is the way to watch this
There
movie.
you go.
Whatever your potion is,
My
get
note for
enhanced by
that.
it.
My note for that sequence is like, y'all ever have an orgasm so good that it births all of humanity? Which, like, that's essentially what happens.
Exactly. How could you not love it? It's instead of the birth of Venus, it's like the birth of 70s culture.
But also, I love the orgasm scenes. I thought, like, you know, especially the psychedelic way that they are portrayed, it is pretty accurate. Like, I don't know, the headspace that they seem to like paint is just on point.
Yeah, it's tough to like do a visual representation of something like that, and that like fucking sticks it, man. Get it? Sticks it.
So many good scenes and shots in there too. It's so beautiful.
So I know, like, Colton briefly mentioned, and I kind of took it that you weren't a huge fan. Like, what did you guys think about that ending where, like, we kind of turn into the French painting, and it's basically like, oh, women are at, like, the front of, like, the French Revolution, and it's, like, actually women that are, you know...
It reminded me of Joan of Arc, which I guess is, like, the play on the names there. And I was like, oh, I get it now. But, like Colton said, that wasn't supposed to go there until
that wasn't there originally.
Yeah.
Like, it just ended, right? I mean, I think it's still a similar ending when it just ends on all the faces, right? Like, I knew what the ending was as I was watching it. Like, I was like, oh, okay, so, you know, this act of her being burned at the stake, you know, people see themselves in her and it creates a movement. Or, like, it kind of harkens back to, it's like a line earlier in the movie where it's like, if you burn a witch when they still have the pride, her soul will survive and spread to others, essentially. So it's like,
so that's why they locked her in the dungeon.
Yeah, it's like these horrific acts, like, you know, spurring on a movement and incite like the people around them. I was fine with that. I also didn't care like the addition of like the French painting and that being there, and like you know, the painting presenting the heroine at the front as like topless, as like she's seen for most of the movie as well. It was just something as I was reading up on, I was like, oh, it's interesting that this was added after the fact and like not from the original cut of the movie. That's all, where it like has to explicitly explain like, hey, women were at the front of the French Revolution, you know, and you know, they liberated it and all this stuff. I still liked the ending though. Like I thought it was good. You know, what about the love potion? What about that? When that one pink-haired little gremlin guy comes to her and he's like, yo, I want to fuck the queen. Can you help me out?
I honestly loved that fucking scene. It was everything.
Then they got the old Friday the 13th.
Oh, that was, see, and again,
back.
influential.
Stabby stab.
You could totally see the, like, the influence on Bava and
I'm
slasher movies.
sure, you know, Sean Cunningham making Friday the 13th was like, what? This is just a play off of 1973's Belladonna of Sadness.
No, it was based on 1976's Twitch of the Death Nerve, which was definitely inspired by this.
Oh.
Just saying. Just throwing that out there. It was the chain of association and references. It's art. Capital A.
Art pop.
We could belong together.
So are we comfortable landing the plane on this one? So if you're new to the podcast, our rating system is nay, okay, yay, or slay. Colton, we're going to start with you this time. What would you rate Belladonna of Sadness?
This is like a complicated one for me just because I really disliked it in the beginning for so long. It was like 20 minutes of this weird-ass, trippy, hallucinatory anime movie that I'm just like, this is not my vibe at all. And then I was like, this barely fits our horror-themed podcast. But, you know, then this nice, calorically rich cinnamon roll pancake slam breakfast from Denny shows up. And it kind of turned from there. You know, I was like, there's some beautiful hand-painted watercolor scenes. I'd wager that like the majority of the scenes in this movie are somewhat horny, which was, you know, interesting at least. You know, something different. And
yes, please make movies horny again, Jesus.
Yes.
And like, you know, and it definitely, you know, grew on me as I got deeper and deeper into my cinnamon roll pancake slam breakfast. So I felt satisfied with how it all kind of tied up in the end. You know, I think this was like, it took my morning from a Belladonna of sadness to a Bella Denny of happiness.
Oh,
you know, by the end of it. Yeah. So I'm gonna give it a yay overall.
Wow.
And I'm gonna give
Nice.
the Denny's cinnamon roll pancake slam breakfast an okay. You know,
That's it, huh?
that's it. It's an okay.
And would you believe it or not, we're not being sponsored by Denny's somehow.
I had some
Somehow this
other
isn't
notes I wanted to
product
mention
placement.
about Denny's, but it may have been might have got us sued, so I didn't say anything. But yeah, it was really good in the end. It took a while for me to come around to it, but like the longer I kind of stuck with it, I did really enjoy it in the end, and I can at least say like it was worth a watch. I don't know if it's something I'd really watch again. I do think it's mostly there for people to kind of watch when they're on other substances and kind of just vibe out.
Or
But,
when you
know, as
order
someone-
Denny's.
Or when you order Denny's. So as someone sober watching it with my, you know, my breakfast, you know, it was a good watch. I enjoyed it. It's a yay. What about you, Jill?
So I need to find out when and where I can get this on physical media. So, because I really want to
Okay.
rewatch it.
Can I?
Let's go.
So here's the thing. One of the reasons also why I picked it is because they literally like a month ago released a 4K collector's edition of it, but it immediately sold out.
God damn it.
So right now you can't get it unless you're willing to pay $75 plus tax Canadian. But
that's
I'm
like
hoping,
$20 American. I'm
okay,
good.
fair enough. But I'm hoping that like it'll come back in stock somewhere. So I've got all stock alerts everywhere. So I will let you know if the 4K comes back in stock.
Excellent. Because I really want to rewatch it. I really want to rewatch it high off my ass. But I cannot go through the Minions commercials again and again.
That was like a slap in the face.
Yeah, it was like, it was weird. But I don't know. When I first put it on and I got the vibes, the witchcraft, the feminism, the art, the music, and then I
Denny's.
also I had no Denny's, but I also saw that it was inspired by a book, and I'm really interested in reading that. Kind of similar to Howl's Moving Castle, like Japanese movie based off an English book. I'm guessing this is a French book, Japanese movie.
Mhm.
I would love to read it and see how it's different or similar. So I'm also going to look for that. But I really enjoyed it. I had a great time. Like, I already can't wait to go back and see it again. So yeah, it's a motherfucking slave for me.
Oh, shit.
Oh my God.
What about you,
crazy.
Rowan?
We're so back.
So crazy.
I went in it with, like I said, I didn't really know what it was about. I went in with zero expectations, and I pretty much vibed with it 100%.
Of course
the
you
minute
did,
I
Rowan.
started. Yeah, it was a vibe. I thought the music was great. I really enjoyed the animation. Even the parts I found that the story was confusing, I didn't really care because I enjoyed what I was looking at. And it eventually, my slow male mind came around on this one, I guess. So I'm going to give it a yay. I think this was well worth the watch, and I think I would recommend this to people that hadn't heard of it or seen it before. I don't know if this is like a watch that I would like to own it on physical media, but I mean, I buy anything on physical media.
Yeah, it was
so
like,
I don't know how much of a stamp that is, but I mean, this is something I'd watch, maybe once every couple of years or something. It is a fairly heavy watch. But yeah, I really enjoyed my time with this. What about you, Mike?
Okay, so to nobody's surprise, it is, as Jill would say, a motherfucking sleigh.
Yay!
I just I don't even know what to say about it except that it's like this evil, gorgeous movie that I had never seen anything like it before, and I was afraid that when I rewatched it again that it would somehow lose its power, but I liked it even more, and I just can't stop thinking about it every time I watch it, and it just it completely changed my life. So a sleigh with 4 Ys,
slay the boots down.
and it's not something that I would recommend to everybody, but personally, it is very important.
Understandable.
So yeah, just slay. So 2 slays, 2 yays, and I think that's pretty good. So we told you what we thought of it, and we didn't ask what you thought of it because I got busy and I forgot to post everything. I'm sorry, Mike.
What the hell, Rowan?
I know.
Wow.
I'm still trying to.
You really said last day of Pride Month. Fuck you.
I'm really. I really have like learning about this dad brain where I just forget everything. So I'm learning tough lessons. So I don't have any questions either, but I do know that we did get a call on the horrific hotline. So yeah, let's go on over to that.
Okay, so I have watched Belladonna of Sadness for the first time. I heard the title before somewhere, but couldn't really place it.
I'm afraid.
And, first off, I have to admit, I think the style of the movie is really interesting. I think the art itself, the pictures presented and the way they are shown is really cool. But, and I might be on the losing side here, but for me personally, it was just too much for 90 minutes. So I would have loved 20 or 30 minutes, but 90 minutes, like a feature-length movie that was just too long for that experimental anime mix style. That being said, I do like the general plot line overall until almost the end. Now, maybe you guys have to help me out here. Maybe I missed something, or maybe some sentences weren't subtitled for some reason in the version I watched, but I didn't really get the direct connection to the French Revolution. Was there anything else except like, yeah, women were an important part of the French Revolution? Or
no.
Did I actually miss something there?
I think there's a Joan of Arc.
But again, I think the movie has some strong visuals and some interesting themes. Just the art style itself didn't work for me in the amount of time the movie had to develop its storyline. Still, very interesting pick. Hope to see more of those every now and then. And I do have a final question.
That's why I picked it.
That was fucking shade, Nicholas.
You're probably not going to do a summer.
He said no more May
month,
24th.
But are there like any summer movies? Like I'm thinking of camp slashers like Friday the 13th or The Burning that you'd recommend. Like if you have an evening and you just want to watch something and it's too warm, what is the movie you're going for? All right, bye.
I like that.
Summer horror movies. We got anything that we usually try and check out in the summertime? I mean, Jaws.
I know what you did last summer.
Jawgist is an obvious pick, you know?
This is I mean, my basic bitch answer is Friday the 13th Part 2, a great summer camp movie.
April Fool's Day, which we've done before.
Yeah,
we all know
great.
my feelings on that.
Jaws.
That's like,
camp,
I mean, that's
right?
like vaguely campy. It's like the, summer vacation on an island. So same thing.
I'm trying to find my list of like It Slays movies I want to pick because I'm sure there's probably some like some summer picks on there, but like nothing is like springing to mind explicitly that I watch in the summer.
Another two that come to me is like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
sweaty.
That'd probably be my favorite. One of my favorite like summer horror movies.
And then even X, another like hot, sweaty, summer movie.
You can feel the heat.
From Dusk Till Dawn, would that count?
Oh,
I think so. Yeah,
From Dusk Till Dawn's good any time of the year.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like summery, and for me as well, like House of the Devil. I don't know if that explicitly is summertime movie, but like I think of that as like kind of being like this sweaty, kind of grimy movie.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah. That's a few there. And if you want to be like Nicholas and leave us a voicemail, you can do so at It Slays Podcast. You send it to us on one of our socials or at itslayspodcast@gmail.com. We'll make sure that it makes the air. And if you're not doing so already, you can follow us on all of our socials at It Slays Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, /, Letterboxd, Threads, Bluesky. If there's a social media, we're probably there at It Slays Podcast, even if I'm not there, which some of these, I'm not on them. And if you want to help support the show financially, like our horror hounds, Holly, Nicholas, Patrick, Mark, Stephen, Joy, Dan, Brian, Trevor, and James, gain access to the Patreon exclusive show Stream Screams, hosted by Jill, and get episodes of this here main show 48 hours early. Be sure to head on over to patreon.com/itslaispodcast and choose whatever tier works best for you. Now, Rowan, you were vibing out to the music in this one. I assume something is going to be making the playlist?
We'll find something to put on there for it. So head on over to the It Slays Podcast Horrific playlist on Spotify. If you have any problems finding it, you can go to any of the social media that Colton just mentioned, go into the bio, click the Linktree link. It'll take you directly there. We upload scores or licensed music from iconic horror movies we review, or just horror movies we love. So go follow the playlist. We update it pretty regularly, and get your spooky music on, because why the hell not? And then before we get into the upcoming pick, I gotta remind people too, go into the any of the bio, any of the episodes now, and you can text the podcast now and leave a message that way. This is like a new feature that we just started, and you can do that. You can text us things like, Mike, send us pictures of your feet, whatever you want to do.
Not free feet pics.
And we'll read it on the episode. But yeah, lastly, we got to get into what you need to watch next, and it's a Jill pick. Jill, why don't you let them know what they need to watch?
Yeah, so the next pick is Suspiria 2018. Get it in your eyeballs.
Luca Guadagnino, isn't it? And
yes.
It's like 3 hours long or something.
Can't wait.
Shush. Mia Goth is in it.
Yeah. Show some fucking respect, Colton.
How about we all watch A Cure for Wellness then, huh? Mia
We're
Goth's
gonna
in that
watch-
fucking movie too.
We're going to watch all the feminist movies, and you're going to sit down, you're going to like it. Witchy and feminine is the theme for the summer.
We love witches.
Yeah.
Witchy July.
So get that in your eyeballs. We'll be back. As always, thank you for all the support. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
Bye, it's Mike.
I'm Colton, and next time I'm going to tell you about Denny's strawberry lemonade.
And it's Jill. Bye.
See you later.